In our previous episode, we looked at the causes of the American Revolution. Today we'll be looking at the road to war. This includes the Townshend Acts, the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, the Continental Congress, and the battles of Lexington and Concord. After the British had repealed the Stamp Act, they introduced the Townshend Acts. These were a tax placed on imported goods such as tea, glass, paint, and lead. And once again, this led to huge protests taking place. Tensions were already very high, and the introduction of these new taxes did not go down well with the colonists. Tensions remained high, and in 1770, the Boston Massacre happened. This was when a Boston mob attacked a group of British soldiers using snowballs and sticks and rocks, and the British soldiers' rebuttal was to open fire, leaving 5 Americans dead on the street that day. And this event is known as the Boston Massacre. 3 years later, an event known as the Boston Tea Party occurred. This is where a group of patriots, known as the Sons of Liberty, dressed as Native Americans and dumped 342 crates of East Indian Company tea into the Boston Harbour. This event took place on the 16th of December 1773. This was the first major act of defiance by the Americans to show they would not take taxation and tyranny sitting down. Britain's response to this was to impose what the Americans called the Intolerable Acts, and they placed Massachusetts under military rule. Leading on from the Boston Tea Party, the colonies were worried that the same thing could happen to them as happened in Massachusetts. Therefore, representatives of these colonies met in the First Continental Congress in September of 1774. It was in this Congress that they opposed all British taxes and ordered a boycott of British goods and demanded the removal of British soldiers. Soon after this, some militias started to form, as some of the colonies were preparing for war. As the talks of a rebellion progressed, the British General Gage sent over 800 soldiers to quell the rebellion. This led to the first military engagement by the two sides on the 19th of April 1775. First up was the Battle of Lexington. However, it was a very small battle, as there were only around 80 American militiamen in the town, led on the day by John Parker. In a surprising series of events, a gunshot went off and amidst the confusion kicked off some battling. This shot was known as a shot heard around the world, and it kicked off the American Revolution. After the Americans had fled from Lexington, the British marched to the city of Concord. While there, the Americans had already fled, so the British searched for the weapons they were after. However, the militiamen were watching from the North Bridge, and as time went by, more and more militiamen showed up, making their forces stronger and stronger. Then, the Americans decided to cross the North Bridge they were on and go back into Concord and defeat the British there. It was then Colonel Francis Smith realised the American militia was growing in strength and decided to retreat. It was a long march back to Boston for them, as the Americans grew in numbers all the way back, and the British ended up losing 73 men while 174 were wounded. This gave the Americans a great sense of hope that they pushed the British back, and so more and more Americans joined the fight. Tensions remained high after the battles of Lexington and Concord, and there was a general thought around the colonies that they were heading for war. Thomas Paine wrote a pamphlet called Common Sense, which was read widely around the colonies. In this pamphlet, Paine argued that the British were oppressing the rights of the American people, who should be completely independent to protect those rights. On May 10th, 1775, the Continental Congress met for the second time in Pennsylvania. John Hancock was chosen to be president, and the Second Continental Congress made decisions like an actual government. When the Second Continental Congress met in 1776, it chose George Washington to be Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. And on the 4th of July, 1776, the Congress issued the Declaration of Independence to separate the American colonies from British rule.